This is the program that shows you the side of police chase videos they didn't want you to see. Bungled arrests, kamikaze crooks, and cop-based carnage of all kinds. Welcome to Cops Uncut, the real car crash TV.
On my way.
Coming up on Cops Uncut. Two runaways send the cops round the houses. A game of hide-and-seek leaves the feds confused. And we've got a very rubbish vigilante.
260 at the corner. On my way.
As a traffic cop, it must sometimes feel like you're wearing a sign saying, "Kick me." For once, his suspect has actually pulled right off the road, far enough away from the danger of cars still on the highway. But as we've seen so many times before, no matter where a cop stands, it's all too easy for the traffic to find him. Although it doesn't seem possible from this footage, this cop actually manages to come away from this incident without a single broken bone. All we can assume is that this bloke's skeleton is made of rubber, because he's later released from hospital with only minor bruising and is back on the beat not long after. All of which means that no one could ever accuse this deputy of not putting his back into the job. The cop in this cruiser is looking for trouble. Specifically, the driver of a black Camaro who's been reported for doing 90 miles an hour in a 60 zone. But as we all know, cops don't need to look for trouble. It invariably comes to find them. As if by magic, there it is, coming straight towards our cop. All he needs to do now is spin round and join the chase. If only it were that simple. As we've seen before, American cop cars and three-point turns just don't mix. But instead of following the other cars down here, the patrolman makes the completely unnecessary detour round the back of this building and ends up back where he started. Now he follows the action over the bridge again and straight through the middle of town until the Camaro does a U-turn and heads back the other way. The stupid cops are foiled by a three-point turn again, and by the time they're facing the other way, the villain's a dot in the distance. The suspect could probably have given his pursuers the slip altogether, but we know better. And rather than accept the escape invitation, the fugitive pulls up and gives up. Apparently, it's just no fun if it's too easy. For a moment, there's a tense standoff. But then, out of the blue, the driver and passenger exit the car and surrender. Shocked by his good fortune, the generously proportioned policeman inches forwards, pistol in his paw. Not that there's that much need for caution. The unusually obliging crooks are already in the prone position. All of which signals the end of a humorous catalogue of errors from both sides. The cops stand around nonchalantly looking as though they were in control the whole time.
260 at the corner. On my way.
How to get arrested? The maximum sentence for car theft is around 15 years. But if you want to lengthen your stay behind bars, then there are a number of complementary crimes that may be committed en route. Jumping red lights, for example.
There he goes, right through a red light.
and attempting to elude arrest are both excellent ways to help ensure that the cops throw the book at you.
Just endangering people's lives. When the police get a hold of him, they'll have a few words with about what he's been doing.
Just make sure that you don't get too ahead of yourself.
Police, they're back about a mile, believe it or not.
Because a police chase isn't really a police chase if there aren't any actual police cars in the vicinity. And if the cops are really lagging behind, then try to find a way to help them catch up with you.
Oh, here he goes into an apartment complex. This will be interesting.
At this point, there's a widely accepted standard procedure for getting yourself caught.
Well, he's probably going to hop out of the car here. That's what they usually do.
And it involves ditching your vehicle.
Here he goes. He's parking. He's going to jump out of the car and run.
And switching to a much slower means of transportation.
There they go. Two of them.
Your legs.
And this is typical. People steal a car, and the police start chasing them. They pull into a dead end like that, and they just start running.
Thanks to the eye in the sky, you'll never be too hard to track down. No matter how many random blind alleys you scuttle down.
Got a mighty good job on that camera.
And it's only a matter of time before you run into the law.
Okay, so they're giving up. This came to a good conclusion.
If you're really lucky, you might even be arrested by cadets Hightower and Hooks from the Police Academy movies. Once you're safely in the back of the cruiser, however, headbutting stuff and making your head bleed like this kid has is an unnecessary touch. Cause there'll be plenty of opportunity to give good head once you're in the slammer. So to maximize your prison potential, simply keep in mind this easy-to-remember verse. Committing extra crimes means you'll do even more time, and dumping your car guarantees you won't get very far.
And this is typical. People steal a car, and the police start chasing them. They pull into a dead end like that, and they just start running.
Still to come on Cops Uncut, a do-gooder does no good at all, and a heroic cop shows how the pros save the day. Americans love their booze almost as much as they love their cars. Trouble starts, though, when our transatlantic pals mix the two passions together into a deadly cocktail. The bloke driving the van has got enough grog sloshing around his system to knock out a whole herd of buffalo. But this doesn't seem to have discouraged him from hoofing it blindly down suburban Michigan streets at insane speeds, driving straight over junctions like this, and slamming his van into the trunk of a tree.
Just went through the stop sign, crash, and rolled.
A spectacular crash like this one would normally be enough to convince the drunkest of skunks to give up the chase. But this is familiar territory for the guy in this van. In fact, the suspect has already had his driver's license suspended for, you guessed it, drink driving, and has at least 2 prior alcohol-related convictions to his name. Which is probably why he doesn't particularly fancy another one. Sadly, it's just too little, too late. Moments later, he's cuffed and on his way to jail. We're up into the chopper again for the next chase. Over in Hollywood, they love their chases so much that as soon as one starts, the skies are full of helicopters just busting for a better view. So when this beaten-up truck starts tearing up Tinseltown, choppers are immediately hovering around him like flies around feces.
He tries to make a U-turn. No, he goes up the wrong side of Cahuenga.
To make up for his earlier speeding, the suspect takes much of the chase nice and slow, and spends most of the pursuit stuck in LA's famous gridlock. The guy has a creative solution to the city's congestion. If the lane going your way is blocked,
Wrong side of the road here.
then simply drive into the oncoming traffic. Just when it looks like this wild goose chase could be coming to an end, the bloke slips away again. But when the cops chasing him looked like they couldn't catch a bus, much less ram a getaway car,
Now he's wanted for assault with a deadly weapon against a police officer.
then perhaps it's time for somebody else to have a go. Enter Vigilante Man.
Oh no, the guy's getting out. Some citizen is getting out of the truck, getting this guy out. Unbelievable!
Proving that not all truck drivers are bad guys, the punter in this grey pickup decides to take justice into his own hands. And although his intentions might be laudable, his curious vaulting technique leaves rather a lot to be desired. He's certainly persistent.
And now there's some sort of fight going on.
But in the end, his efforts accomplish very little. And after a little more of the wild goose stuff, the suspect's finally defeated by the LA rush hour and abandons his vehicle altogether. Only to be tackled to the ground and taken away a few moments later, this time by 100% official law enforcers. When this suspect made the cops look like circus clowns, this have-a-go hero thought he'd jump on the bandwagon. But it wasn't until the fugitive ran out on his truck that his escape finally crashed. Los Angeles may be the city of angels, but it's got more than its fair share of demons. Like the two crooks in this white Pontiac Grand Am, for example, the cops believe they might have been involved in a robbery.
Again, these guys are supposed to be armed with at least one sawed-off shotgun gun and another gun of some sort.
But they're tooled up and driving erratically, so the pursuing officers have to be cautious. That means hanging back and shadowing them wherever they go.
Very dangerous here, residential neighborhood.
The camera operator in the chopper is being ever so slightly picky about the direction that the chase is taking.
Hey, wait a minute, where's he going now?
Whenever the suspects turn left, he's as happy as Larry.
There's a truck there, he's going to go left of the truck. Let's see what he does here. Come on, go left, go left, go left. Okay, he goes left, good.
But if it looks like the crims might be heading to the right, the cameraman doesn't like it one bit.
Don't go right here. Uh-oh.
Unfortunately, due to the unpredictable nature of police chases, the odd right turn here and there is unavoidable, so the cameraman will just have to live with it.
Okay, he goes left, good.
This particular twist in the trail leads to a superstore car park. And for a brief moment, it's America versus Germany all over again when the US-built Pontiac comes face-to-face with a Teutonic rival.
This could come to an end. There's a Mercedes there. They rammed him there. This is extremely dangerous.
But thanks to some unhelpful intervention by the police, the Grand Am bullies the Merc into a retreat, and the bad guys eke out the chase for a little longer. With at least half a dozen LAPD cruisers on their tail and choppers buzzing overhead, these bandits are just putting off the inevitable.
It's extremely crowded. It's a red light. There is cross traffic ahead.
So there's just time for one more crazy maneuver.
Car trying to make a left turn there. Okay, he goes left. Good.
Before the cops pull off an insane stunt of their own.
Don't go right here. Uh-oh. Look at that. Oh, they take him out. The suspects, they took him out. Great shot there. There, you can see there. This thing is coming to an end. Guns drawn. These guys are armed.
Shielding themselves behind a cruiser, the cops order the driver out. And the young fugitive appears keen to take full advantage of his captive audience.
There you see the suspect, red shirt, gets out of the vehicle. And he's turning around right now, doing some sort of dance for the LAPD there.
But the cops aren't in a party mood.
You can see the LAPD not taking any chances.
So once the second suspect is out of the car, he has one final poke at the chopper chaps. When the cops ask him to turn around, he turns to the right. Taking off again. Veteran Texas traffic cop Marvin Curry responds to reports of a car accident only to discover that one of the cars involved is upside down and on fire. He instinctively rushes towards the flames and then remembers that he'll probably need something to help put them out. Accompanied by a concerned civilian, Officer Curry dives back into the fray. Sadly, the police issue fire extinguisher from his cruiser is useless. In fact, if anything, he only makes matters worse. As the flames lick higher, it becomes apparent that there's actually someone still trapped inside the blazing pickup. Curry searches desperately for a way that he can get into the vehicle without losing his eyebrows. Meanwhile, fellow longtime police officer Claude Bubba Deal arrives on the scene to help. Bubba has a go at squirting the flames too, but he only succeeds in aggravating the situation and ends up running off to look for a better solution. Yet more cops turn up. As each one arrives, they all try giving the fire extinguisher business a go, thinking that it's going to help. But it clearly isn't. Every time someone shoots out a jet into the flames, it only seems to add fuel to the fire. Curry has managed to break a window. You can just make him out kneeling beside the blazing inferno here. While the other officers clear the area, Curry, assisted by Bubba, prepares for a brave rescue attempt. Inside the wreck, the driver's head is caught behind a headrest and his leg is trapped by the steering column. But with one almighty tug, the cops heave the smouldering body to safety, putting out the fire that catches the man's trousers as he's pulled free. Eventually, the bloke is whisked off to hospital while professionals take over firefighting duties. In this case, while the driver and his rescuer need serious medical attention, both men survive. But it just goes to show that when people say you shouldn't play with fire, it's obvious you shouldn't play with fire extinguishers either. Still to come on Cops Uncut. A sudden smash on this rain-soaked street. How to get arrested. There's nothing worse than being free to roam the streets with no cuffs or barred windows to restrict you. So if you long for a life in the slammer because you just can't get a good gangbang, here are a few tips on how best to get there. Pickups are always a fine start, and pickups and off-roading are a good combination too. While it isn't an arrestable offence in itself, off-roading will certainly get you noticed, as well as giving you the chance to try out the all-terrain capabilities of your motor. So when you hear this sound, that's your cue to get the party started. Open the batting with a simple foot-to-the-floor procedure. High speeds will get you into that cell much faster. Then you can experiment with a bit of rough road, like a level crossing, or perhaps a bumpy hill. Once you're satisfied with your initial results, why not graduate to something a little more adventurous, like an old dirt track? But if you really want to get cuffed quick, find yourself a fence and try to drive through it. This is a surefire chase stopper, and instead of cavorting through the wilderness, you might get trapped like a rat. In this case, you could suddenly find yourself with a real test, testing the 4x4's transmission. If your pursuing cop doesn't seem keen to throw the book at you just yet, try pretending to escape.
He's stuck between a fence and some trees.
This should bring him flying out of his comfy cruiser, ready to take you down. Sometimes, though, even this won't work, and if your arresting officer is a born and bred lard ass, you may find yourself requiring more persuasion to prise him from his seat. And if you do accidentally break free from the fence, then all that's left for you to do is dump the car. Even the fattest, laziest cops will have no option but to trundle out of their squad car and do their job. Some of the more considerate criminals will often help police chase them by making sure they indicate at every turn. That way, the cops behind get a very useful advance warning as to which way the chase is going to be heading next. This is particularly handy in rainy weather, when it's much more dangerous for police to go pelting it round the sodden streets after some runaway renegade. But perhaps the fleeing suspect in this footage is paying slightly too much attention to the cops behind. It would certainly explain why he's obviously not looking in front of him. The runaway gives no indication whatsoever that he's about to ram himself into a tree with a massive bang. But he does, once again helping the cops by bringing the chase to a premature end.
260 at the corner.
On my way.
American cops have something of a reputation for being, shall we say, a little on the large side. But while additional tonnage can be a hindrance in many police chase situations, there are some occasions where that little extra oomph comes in surprisingly handy. Take this example. The car below has got a ridiculous number of crooks crammed inside.
This vehicle, we understand, is a Buick 4-door with 6 people on board.
But even with half a dozen felons weighing it down, for some reason the getaway car is still able to comfortably outrun the cruiser on its tail. But with the crooks steaming ahead,
They've been at speeds up to 90 miles an hour.
the overburdened officer behind has little hope of getting close enough to ram it off the road. So he uses another trick from his repertoire.
Down ahead we have looks like we have a spike set up, Hilton.
The Stinger blows out the villain's tires beautifully. But disappointingly, the driver manages to keep going.
Trying to put spikes out in the roadway. That has not deterred this chase.
A sharp reduction in speed is all that's needed to level this playing field. The chasing cop seems slightly surprised, which might explain why he initially overshoots his quarry, before finally zeroing in for the kill.
This is when it starts getting dangerous.
At last, the officer is able to turn what was once a handicap into a clear advantage by slamming his cruiser's considerable weight into the side of the fleeing Buick.
Look at those sparks coming off as he hits that guardrail.
He crushes the crooks into the barrier.
207, we're coming to a stop.
Not only does he catch the crims, but he also conclusively proves that size really does matter.
260 at the corner.
On my way.
And so to the end of another day on Cops Uncut. Let's have a look at the day's developments. A simple stop caused some backache for this cop. A playful perp played a bit of peekaboo with the police. And a wannabe cop got not a lot. Be careful out there.